I go for an Ice Fang, but Gyarados just manages to survive the hit and lands another Waterfall. That's it, if I miss a single Ice Fang for the rest of this champion fight, I will lose the run. In this playthrough of Pokemon HeartGold, I wanted to see if I could beat a HeartGold Nuzlocke while only using Johto Pokemon, and adding the final twist that if a single Pokemon faints, I have to restart the entire run. My hardcore Nuzlocke rules are as follows. I can only catch the first Pokemon in either route, I cannot use items during battle, I have to play on set mode, and I cannot overlevel past the next gym leader's ace. So Johto Pokemon tend to get overshadowed by their Kanto neighbours, even in their own games. These games rely so much on Kanto Pokemon I wanted to try and complete this run using only Johto Pokemon, with the added difficulty that if a single Pokemon faints I must restart the entire run. This doesn't leave me with a huge amount of options for encounters, but it does leave me with a decent amount of variety and fun choices. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, because there'll definitely be more content coming from me soon. So with that out of the way, let's jump into this run and see if Not Red has what it takes to become a champion. So we start this off, like every other run, by picking our starter. I'm a big fan of all of these designs to be honest, and they're all fairly useful in their own right, even Chikorita to an extent, so I can never actually pick between them. Because of this, I decided to pick based on my trainer ID's last digit, which turns out to be a 7. This means I'm getting one happy little bitey boy we named Not Squirt, because in this Johto only run, my starter is definitely not a Squirtle. Before we can start this Nuzlocke though, we have to go run an errand for Professor Elm, while he gets mugged by our rival Not Blue. When we arrive back, the police accuse us of stealing Elm's Pokemon, while he just stands there and daydreams. He is 100% being written off the Christmas list this year. After all that nonsense, we can start our adventure, and find our very first set of encounters. The first of which is a Hoot-Toot we named Not Pidgey. Can you guess the nickname theme yet? Getting Hoot-Toot here is slightly annoying because this route is the only route we could have actually got Sentrent on, but oh well. We then find a Spinarak we named Not Weedle, but unfortunately he is about as useful as a Weedle. He probably won't see much use and sit in the party hanging around scaring people with arachnophobia until something more useful turns up. Next up we get the joy of trying to find a 1% Dunsparce encounter, which takes at least 20 minutes off my life, with speed up additionally, but eventually one turns up and we catch it and name it Not Geodude. Then outside Violet City we catch one of my favourite Pokemon, a fluffy sheep we called Not Pikachu, and then our last encounter before the next gym, we have to talk to a strange man in the Pokemon Center. He wants us to tell him the phrase Swift Swim, Sticky Hold, No Match Flying, so he'll give us a Slugmare egg. I'm not sure what Swift Swim, Sticky Hold, No Match Flying means, but clearly talking to weird strangers has its benefits. Good life advice that. With Not Vulpix added to the team, we're ready for the first gym. This fight can be slightly annoying as Pidgeotto likes to spam Sand Attack and Roost, however Not Pikachu didn't feel like playing around today. She starts the fight by outspeeding and throwing Falconer's Pidgey in one hit. The Pidgeot then comes out, misses a 95% accurate tackle, and Not Pikachu gets a crit Thundershock, ending the fight in 2 moves. I hope the rest of this run goes like that. Not Pikachu to the MVP already. Before the next gym, we only get one extra encounter, an egg given to us by Professor Elm's assistant. Before long, we hatch a Togepi in Sprout Tower. We decide to name the Togepi Not Jiggly, because in fact, Togepi is not Jiggly. Togepi is so excited at being not Jiggly, and after 40 minutes of running around in circles, he is able to evolve into a Togetic. And thanks to our new level cap, we're also able to evolve Not Pikachu into Fluffy. To be honest, I think this evolution could have also been accomplished by just making Not Pikachu stand up and dyeing his wolf pink, but you know, if there's an evolution, it's an evolution. With those evolutions out the way and some team changes, bye bye Not Weedle, have a nice life in the PC, we're ready to fight Bugsy. Now I've lost a lot of runs to Bugsy because Scyther with Technician at this point in the game hits really hard, especially if it gets a crit because of Focus Energy. So I decide my best bet is probably to try and put it to sleep with Yawn from Not Jiggly and then hopefully kill it with Not Geodude's rollout. So we start off the fight and land a Yawn, while Not Jiggly tanks a quick attack fairly well. Now I just have to hope it doesn't use U-turn and switch out. On the next turn, Scyther just goes to Leer, and I use Charm to lower Scyther's attack before it actually just falls asleep. That was fairly simple. Scyther's now asleep and at -2 attack, so even if it wakes up, it's fairly safe to bring in Not Geodude here. Scyther stays asleep on the turn I switch in, and then able to get a rollout off as Scyther still stays asleep, and then on the next turn, Scyther remains asleep, and I manage to get the KO. Nice and easy. Bugsy's only other 2 Pokemon is a Metapod and a Kakuna, so I'm pretty confident about this. My confidence is well placed, because Not Geodude then proceeds to sweep through Bugsy's Metapod in one hit, and then Bugsy's Kakuna suffers the same fate, winning us a clean second gym badge. Thanks to getting the second gym badge, our new level cap allows Not Squirt to evolve into Croconaw. We also gain access to Headbutt thanks to a man in Ilex Thorish slamming his head into a tree, which as well as being a great move through a number of Pokemon, gives us access to a fantastic encounter in Azalea Town, a Heracross we name Not Machop. Unfortunately, Not Machop has a negative attack nature, but still has access to Guts, meaning he'll hit like a truck, especially against the next gym. We do get one more encounter before the next gym, however, a Statler we name Not Farfair. Not Farfair will be keeping the PC warm with Not Weedle. Because there's a lot of encounters I catch, but don't end up using in this run, I won't bother showing anything from this point I catch, but don't use. But just remember they're there, giving us moral support on the bench. Or the PC in this case. We then spend an ungodly amount of time trying to pre-poison Not Machop to trigger Guts, which takes forever, but then we're ready to face Whitney. Now Whitney's Miltank is the stuff of children's nightmares, but with Guts boosted Not Machop, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. Whitney starts with Clefairy, who is easily able to be one-shot with Brick Break, unless I misclick and use Aerial Ace instead. This could have been a problem if Clefairy got some Metronome hacks into something scary, but luckily it goes to a weak double slap, and on the next turn I click the correct move, knocking out the Clefairy. Next comes out the cow that gave so many kids PTSD in 2001. Even with Heracross, this could be a problem because of Flinch Stomps, Milk Drink, and Attract. I'd have to get unlucky, but I wouldn't be the first person to get unfairly beaten by this Miltank. Miltank goes for Attract, which could be annoying, but luckily not Geodude doesn't have time for love and breaks through, and manages to crit, giving us the one-hit KO. That's the third gym done. This run is going suspiciously well so far. Our new level cap of 25 allows Not Pidgey to evolve into Noctowl, which is very good timing because Noctowl is able to completely sweep the next gym by itself. We do get a couple more encounters before Morty, but nothing we actually use, so we're ready to tackle the fourth gym already. Most of Morty's Pokemon only have Ghost type moves, so any half-decent normal type can actually really easily sweep this gym, but Noctowl is especially good at it because it has a Psychic move, hitting all of Morty's part poison types super effectively. So let's get into the fight. Morty starts off with Ghastly that is outsped and one-shot with Confusion. Next up is Haunter, who is able to survive one Confusion but doesn't do anything within his extra turn of life, but miss a Hypnosis, so he goes down the next turn to a second Confusion. Up next is Morty's Gengar, who would probably be scary if it had any attacking moves other than Sucker Punch and Shadow Ball. All we need to do is stall out Sucker Punch and then this thing can't even touch us. Morty makes this stupidly easy by putting Not Pidgey to sleep, meaning that I don't even have to waste any PP trying to stall out Sucker Punch. Pidgey takes a nap while Gengar spams Sucker Punch until it runs out of PP. This site is really easy to cheese, maybe it wasn't even play tested. Anyway, once Gengar starts going for Shadow Ball, I know it's out of Sucker Punch, and it's safe to start spamming Confusion until the Gengar goes down. The last of Morty's Pokemon is a second Haunter that immediately comes out and cuts half its own HP, meaning that one Confusion is enough to finish it off. Again, with any half-decent normal type, their gym is really 3. And with that, we have the fourth gym badge. Johto's map really opens up at this point, giving us access to loads of encounters, one of which is a Theratherig I catch south of the Lake of Rage. Not Drowsy doesn't get any use, but it does come along for the next gym, so for being moral support, I thought I'd mention him. On our way to Cinnawood Town, we catch a Mantine we name Not Tenter. Our level cap is also now 31, so we're able to evolve Not Pikachu into Ampharos, meaning she does lose her fluff, which is disappointing, but she's still a beast. And our starter, Not Squirt, is able to evolve into Feraligatr at level 30, which is really early, not that I'm complaining. The next gym leader is Chuck, who unlike the last gym isn't completely 3 unfortunately. Not Pikachu can probably fairly easily take out Poliwrath, but there's no real way of getting him in safely because at any turn I don't attack is a turn Chuck can get off a rather scary Focus Punch. I decide my best bet is actually just to hope Not Pikachu can deal with Chuck's Primate without losing too much HP and then take out Chuck's Poliwrath as well. So with this admittedly very simple plan, we start the fight. Chuck leads with Primeape and I lead with Not Pikachu. Not Primeape outspeeds and hits with a Leer, while we get off a strong Thunderbolt that just misses the KO. Chuck then heals, meaning we're able to bring the Angry Monkey back down into the red. Primeape outspeeds again on the next turn, so I'm worried about how much damage I'm going to take after that Leer. But luckily it just goes to Focus Punch, which means we're cleanly able to take out Chuck's first Pokemon with no damage. Then comes out Poliwrath, who I am slightly worried about still, considering I have had my defense lowered. But luckily, it just goes to Surf, which does basically nothing, and we're able to hit it right between the eyes with a critical hit Thunderbolt, getting the one-hit KO and winning us the match. Johto gets a bit strange at this point because the 6th gym leader Jasmine has a higher level Pokemon than the 7th gym leader Price. To keep things simple, I'll be treating Price as the 6th gym leader and using his lower level cap. Before we get to Price, however, we get two very useful encounters. A Pinecone we name Not Coughing. Not Coughing is vital for winning this run for one reason: she counters the insane amount of exploding Team Rocket grunts this game makes you fight. A lot of these fights get cut because they're not that interesting, so Not Ghastly doesn't come across in this video as important as she should, but I feel like it's important to mention how important she actually is and make sure she gets the credit she deserves. Our other encounter is a Wooper we catch in Union Cave, who we name Not Krabby. We're able to evolve both of these Pokemon immediately into Quagsire and Fortress. Does anybody else think Not Krabby really wants a hug in Gen 4 when it evolves? Just me? Okay then. Anyway, let's start the fight with Price. We start with Not Pikachu while Price sends out Seal. We immediately take out Price's first Pokemon with a Thunderbolt. There seems to be a pattern in this run so far, and then he responds by sending out Piloswine. I'm confident either Not Squirt or Not Krabby can easily take this thing out, and I decide on Not Krabby for no other reason than I haven't actually had a chance to use him yet. I go through a Surf, but Piloswine outspeeds and hits a really hard Blizzard, and because of Snowcloak raising Piloswine's evasiveness in the Hail, I actually miss Surf. Good start for Not Krabby there. I won't survive another Blizzard because of Hail, and there's no point risking a crit here, so I switch into Not Squirt, who eats a second Blizzard like it's nothing. I then outspeed and land a Surf for a knockout. I don't think a crit was needed there, but I'm not going to complain, to be honest. Price is down to his last Pokemon, Dewgong. I'm sure Not Pikachu can easily take this thing out, but I decided can't really do much to Not Squirt, so I might as well get some damage in while I can. I get a couple of crunches off before getting low enough where I need to switch into Not Pikachu. Dewgong goes to rest on the turn I switch, meaning Not Pikachu is able to come in cleanly. I then start spamming a couple Thunderbolts for the win, and of course I managed to get the crit on the last Thunderbolt. How many gym fights have we now ended with a crit, whether we've needed it or not? Because I think it's more than half, which is strange, but you know, my luck seems to be holding, so don't question it. Right after Price, I can backtrack to Otherline City to challenge Jasmine, the 6th gym leader, after the 7th. This game is a bit weird. I'm expecting this fight to be fairly straightforward, so let's jump right in. Jasmine starts with her first 2 Magnemites, while I start with Not Machop. You can tell I'm confident about this fight because I haven't even bothered to edge my Pokemon to the level cap, or bothered to pre-poison Machop for the Guts boost. My confidence is clearly well placed because Not Machop one-shots both of Jasmine's Magnemites with a Brick Break without any issues. Next comes out Steelix, who I hit with another Brick Break, but because of Steelix's insane defensive stats, even a super effective stab move doesn't put the snake close to below half. Steelix retaliates with a Screech, meaning I need to switch out to avoid some nasty damage on the next turn. I decide on Not Squirt, who is able to come in on a resisted Iron Tail and then on the next turn take down Steelix with a single Surf. That's the 7th gym badge done. Of all the changes this remake could have made, why didn't they change any of the gym teams? Because I mean, why does the 6th/7th gym leader fight with 2 Magnemites? I mean, really? Before we get to the final gym, our level cap is now 41, meaning Not Vulpix is allowed brief freedom from his confines in the box to evolve into Magcargo. He isn't very useful against the final gym leader, but if we survive the fight, he will be replacing Not Geodude on the team, who unfortunately in the endgame just doesn't have the stats to keep up anymore. With that, we're up against the final gym leader, Claire. Now Claire's Kingdra scares me more than every other threat so far in this run. None of my Pokemon can take it in a 1v1, especially after getting through the rest of their team, and yet nothing I have can very easily take a hit to switch into it and finish it off, especially because of his ability Sniper, which means if it gets a crit, it does 2 times damage instead of 1.5. On a normal run, this wouldn't be a problem because I just sack something. On a Deathless run, however, obviously I can't do that, so I need some way of bringing in something cleanly against the Kingdra. I do have a plan, however, so let's see if this works. I start by sending in Not Krabby while Claire sends in a fairly useless Gyarados. I'm hoping to use this thing to set Feraligatr up on with enough speed and damage to sweep the rest of Claire's team. The only problem I have is if Gyarados wakes up too quickly or Not Squirt fails to one-shot the Kingdra, which according to counts it does have the chance to fail to do even with a +6 attack, I will just end up losing. While this plan may have flaws, I think it is probably the safest bet I still have of winning this fight without losing anyone, so let's try it. So I start off with a Yawn and Gyarados goes through a Dragon Rage. Next I send in Not Squirt, who takes another Dragon Rage on the switch in before Gyarados falls asleep. Ideally I get off 3 Sword Dances and 1 Agility here to maximise my chances of winning, meaning we're hoping for at least 4 turns to sleep, which is quite a lot. We get 1. We get 2. We get 3. And somehow, Gyarados doesn't even wake up on the 4th turn. I couldn't have asked for this to go better, so now I can start hopefully sweeping through Claire's entire team with no issue. The Gyarados goes down to a single crunch, and then both of Claire's Dragonairs go down to a single Ice Fang each. Then comes out the Kingdra. I go through a crunch and pray through a high roll, and somehow it just misses the kill. If Kingdra crits here, it's all over. and my luck holds out and Not Squirt lives on 37 HP. If Gyarados had woken up and gotten another Dragon Rage off, I would have just lost the run. Thank God it didn't, meaning on the next turn I'm able to outspeed and crunch the hard attack inducing Kingdra, winning the final gym badge of the run. So after getting the 8th gym badge, you have to go deal with your respective game's box legendary, which is always a pain because I can never remember which Whirl Island is the correct one. I'm too stubborn to go look it up. So after 20 minutes of running around, I finally find the correct island and the entrance to Lugia. Oh, I'm actually a idiot. That's a live recreation of me remembering I'm actually playing HeartGold instead of Soul Silver, which is the copy I've owned since I was a kid, meaning I'm in the completely wrong place and have just wasted the last 20 minutes of my life. Anyway, once I remember what game I'm playing, I head to the correct location to fight Ho-Ho, and whoa, this music. I don't listen to it much because I never owned this game when I was a kid, but just give it a listen and ignore the fact I came very close to losing against this completely optional fight. With that all out the way, the only thing standing between us and the Elite Four is Not Blue. I haven't shown you any of these fights this run because most of this team is really underwhelming through a lot of them, but I thought I might as well show the last one. So I start off with Not Krabby and Not Blue starts off with Sneasel, who immediately goes down to a strong Earthquake. Next up is Meganium, and Not Krabby is not going to be able to survive the 4 times effective Pedal Dance, so I switch into Not Vulpix. Now I completely forget that Not Vulpix is part Rock type, meaning it doesn't resist Pedal Dance here like I think it will. That means he takes actually quite a lot of damage from this Pedal Dance, and if he gets hit by another one, he is at risk to dying to a crit. For some strange reason I decide not to switch out, I think because I really want to use Magcargo because I've never used one in my team before. This is a really needless risk though, because Not Vulpix goes down to 9 HP and doesn't even get the kill on Meganium. Yeah, let's not do that again. I do what I should have done last turn and switch into Not Coughing. Not Coughing is easily able to tank 2 Pedal Dances and finish off the Meganium with a Bug Bite. Not Blue then sends out his Gold Bat, so I switch into Not Pikachu and tank an Air Cutter. I go for a Thunderbolt to quickly get the knockout, but this big mouth bat annoyingly gets off a Confuse Ray. Luckily, Not Pikachu comes through for the 19th time this run and nails the bat in the mouth, getting the one-hit KO. Not Blue is down to his last 3 Pokemon, the first of which is a Haunter. I switch into Not Pidgey, expecting a Ghost move, and my guess is correct because Haunter just goes for a Shadow Ball which does nothing, and then Not Pidgey is able to clean me one-shot with Exosensory on the following turn. Not Blue then sends out his Magneton, which is completely walled by Not Krabby. Annoyingly, Not Krabby is confused on the switch in. Why does your Rhydal in this game have so many confusion moves on his Pokemon? It's very annoying. It doesn't make it more difficult, just irritating. Luckily, like Not Pikachu before him, Not Krabby ignores the confusion and hits an Earthquake, scoring another KO. Now Blue sends in his last Pokemon, a Kadabra. I decide even while confused, Not Krabby can probably handle this stupid Kadabra, and I go for an Earthquake, which Kadabra disables annoyingly. So then on the next turn I go for Waterfall, but Kadabra sets up Reflect, meaning he's able to survive. This thing really doesn't want to be knocked out. On the next turn, however, Kadabra gets off a weak Psybeam, and then Not Krabby is able to win us the match. A lot of people like to praise the rivals in earlier generations, but to be honest, the one in Gen 2 is really weird. I don't like his character very much, he's just kind of edgy for no real reason, and the fights are all kind of easy and underwhelming. And with that, it's Elite Four time. Let's go through a quick rundown of our team before jumping in. We have Not Squirt, the Thralligator, Not Krabby, the Quagsire, Not Machop, the Heracross, Not Coughing, the Fortress, Not Pikachu, the Anthros, and last but not least, Not Vulpix, the Magcargo. Let's go see if our brave Johto boys can pull off a win. First up is Will. I want to set up Not Squirt here to sweep, but unfortunately Will starts with Xatu, who's really hard to set up against because of the U-turn and Confuse Ray. I decide my best bet is to knock this thing out with Not Pikachu and then try to set up against whatever he sends out next. So on turn 1 I set up Light Screen to keep damage as low as possible, while Will goes to Me First, which does nothing. Good start! Next turn Will goes for a U-turn, which doesn't do a lot of damage, but unfortunately he sends in Exeggutor who resists my Thunderbolt, meaning it doesn't do a lot. However, for some reason Exeggutor doesn't know any Grass type moves, meaning with a Light Screen up, it's perfectly safe to switch into Not Krabby to put this thing to sleep. The amazing luck I've been having this entire run manages to hold out, because on the switch in, Not Krabby dodges a Hypnosis, and on the next turn dodges a second Hypnosis, meaning we're able to get off a Yawn without being put to sleep. It's a bit of the risk here, switching into Not Squirt, because obviously I could still be put to sleep as I switch in, but I decide it's worth the risk. Luckily, Executor just goes to Reflect, which is fine, because by the time I'm done setting up, Reflect should have worn off. I'm then able to get 3 Sword Dances off and 1 Agility without Executor even waking up, and from there it's a clean sweep on the rest of Will's team with Ice Fang and Waterfall. Executor goes down to a single Ice Fang, Xatu goes down to a single Ice Fang, Jinx goes down to a single Waterfall, Slowbro actually survives a Waterfall but just goes to the Curse, so on the next turn, a second Waterfall is able to bring down the Slowbro. Will's only remaining Pokemon is a Xatu, who goes down to a single Ice Fang. 1 down, 3 to go. Next up is Koga, who can be slightly annoying because of poison, but honestly, he's the member of the Elite Four I'm least worried about. I lead with not Vulpix, and Koga leads with Ariados. Luckily, this is a fairly one-sided matchup as Ariados goes to Spider Web, meaning I can't escape, and not Vulpix responds with a Lava Plume, the one-shots. Next, Koga sends out his Thortress, who I'm slightly concerned about because of the explosion, but I'm confident that not Vulpix with a 5-level advantage will be faster. Somehow he's not, but luckily it only goes for a Toxic Spikes, meaning not Vulpix can get off another Lava Plume, securing a second KO. Koga for some reason still hasn't learned his lesson about sending in Pokemon that are weak to fire and sent it to sit in his Venomoth, who is able to get off a Toxic, but then immediately goes down to a third Lava Plume. Luckily for Koga, he's actually now out of Pokemon that are weak to fire, so up next is Muck. I decide not coughing will be my best bet for tanking this thing, as Muck's only damaging move is poison, which not coughing is immune to. I think I might be able to set up a few iron defenses so not coughing can handle Koga's last few Pokemon, however I quickly realise this won't work because as I go for iron defense, Muck goes to Screech, making it a bit of a mute turn to be honest. Muck starts minimizing and I decide I might as well go for payback to start wearing this thing down. I land 4 paybacks before deciding Muck is low enough for someone else to finish off and decide not Squirt is probably my Pokemon that hits the hardest. I send not Squirt in on a Screech and then hit through all the minimizes with the Waterfall to finish off the Muck. Koga's down to his last Pokemon, Crobat. I decide that it's worth trying to kill this thing with a fast Ice Fang before it can get too many double teams off. Unfortunately though, not Squirt does miss. I decide to risk going through it again, which looking back is probably a mistake considering Muck lowered my defenses already, and poison damage is adding up at this point. Crobat goes for a second double team, and unfortunately not Squirt does miss again. I decide at this point I might as well try and get lucky with my incredibly lucky sheep, Not Pikachu. Not Pikachu comes out on another double team, and then on the next turn Crobat goes through another double team, but Not Pikachu has proven her worth time and time again, so does anyone have any doubt when she hits through the 4 double teams winning us the match? 2 down, 2 to go. Up next is Bruno, and when you see me leading Not Krabby, you should already know what the strat is. Hitmontop is fairly safe to set up on, so we go for a Yawn, which does miss because of Dig, but on the next turn we're able to land as Hitmontop goes back up. Hitmontop goes to counter on the switch, which is perfect, and then we start setting up with Not Squirt. We get off 3 Sword stances and 1 agility, while Hitmontop does wake up on the agility turn, it just goes to counter, meaning it's all over for Bruno. I proceed to sweep all of this Pokemon with Waterfall, which I understand is not the most exciting strat to watch, it's by far the safest and very satisfying to actually play. With that, we're down to the last member of the Elite Four, Karen. I'm not expecting too much trouble with Karen, surprisingly, so let's see how this goes. I start with Heracross and Karen starts with Umbreon. I go for close combat, expecting to one-shot, but somehow Umbreon is tanky enough to survive on a slither of HP. Umbreon retaliates with a double team. Oh boy, I'm glad we're doing the double team spam again. I know that Karen will probably heal next turn, so I go for a Night Slash to bring it low enough that another close combat will kill without Karen healing through a second time. Karen then surprisingly hard switches, I'm really not sure why, the AI rarely does this, and to make it even weirder, she hard switches into Houndoom, meaning the close combat one-shots it. One down I guess? Next Karen sends out Murkrow, and Heracross has had its defenses lowered, so I switch into Not Pikachu, who tags a Pluck on the switch in. On the next turn, Murkrow goes for a Feint Attack, which doesn't really do a lot, and then goes down to a Thunderbolt. Next up is Gengar, probably Karen's scariest Pokemon, but I'm fairly sure Not Pikachu is especially bulky enough to handle anything this thing throws at it. So I go for Light Screen. Gengar connects with a Focus Blast, which looking at it would have killed had it crit, but at least it didn't, so we're just going to ignore that fact. With Light Screen up, however, it's safe to bring in Not Krabby, who gets hit with a Spite on the switch in that actually doesn't do anything because we haven't used an attack yet. I go for Yawn, and Gengar goes for Spite again. Karen's AI is all kinds of dumb. Karen finally gets off a Spite, there's probably a joke there, and I go for Waterfall before Gengar falls asleep. A second Waterfall is enough to take out the Gengar. Up next is Vileplume, and learning my lesson against Not Blue, I send Not Coughing in instead of Not Vulpix, who is easily able to tank a Petal Dance. It then becomes a game of slowly wearing down the overly large plant with Bug Bites and Payback till it goes down. Then comes out Umbreon, who should have got knocked out first, but better late than ever. It starts spamming double team, and I start missing close combats. Suppose my luck had to run out at some point. Eventually though, a close combat connects, winning us the fight and the Elite Four. It's champion time, and the only way I can see myself doing this deathless is by sweeping with Not Squirt, but I have to hope to God that Gyarados doesn't wake up too early, because otherwise I will lose. So here we go, final battle time. Lance starts off with Gyarados and I start off with Not Krabby. I immediately go for Yawn and Gyarados goes through a Waterfall, which does nothing because of Water Absorb. I then switch into Not Squirt, who takes the very weak Dragon Pulse as Gyarados falls asleep. It all comes down to this: will my sleep luck continue long enough for me to set up? Turn 1, we get Agility off. Turn 2, we get 1 Sword Stance. Turn 3, we get a second Sword Stance, and Gyarados wakes up. Luckily Waterfall hits through a low enough amount of damage where I can risk a third Sword Dance, as Gyarados brings me to 50% HP. This is it, I should hopefully now be able to sweep. I go through an Ice Fang and Gyarados lives on basically no HP, and then hits another Waterfall. That's it, I'm now low enough that if I miss a single Ice Fang, I will lose this champion fight. Lance uses a full restore, but I'm able to bring it back into the red, so the next turn another Ice Fang gets to Kaera. Now to see if my luck holds out. Dragonite number 1, I go for Ice Fang, and it hits. Dragonite number 2, it hits. Lance then sends out Aerodactyl, and I really should have used Waterfall to 100% to guarantee the KO, but for some reason I seem to like risking this whole run, and I go for Ice Fang, which somehow hits, thank god. If I'd lost the run because I used Ice Fang instead of Waterfall, I would have been very annoyed at myself. Up next is the last Dragonite. If this Ice Fang hits, I win. If not, the run is over. And somehow it hits. I've won. Lance sends out his last Pokemon, Charizard, and it goes down to a single 100% accurate Waterfall, winning us the battle and the run. That was a really fun challenge. Obviously we had to rely on setup strats a lot, especially at the end, but on Deathless Nuzlocke there aren't a huge amount of other options as a single death can end the entire run. That was still very intense because setup didn't guarantee the win there, and I had a lot of fun using Pokemon I don't normally use, like Not Coughing and Not Vulpix. So that was pretty cool. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm hoping that with every video I improve, so I hope you stick around and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please like to show your support. Let me know what your favourite fight to watch was in the comments below. Stay tuned for more. Thanks again for watching.